Hey everyone, today we're going to crack the code on Portuguese by tackling the four most important and, yeah, sometimes the trickiest verbs in the whole language. If you've ever felt a little stuck, then this one is definitely for you. Let's get right into it. So does this group of verbs look familiar? Estar, ser, ir, and ter. Yep, these are the big four. They're totally irregular, they pop up everywhere, and honestly, they can be a huge headache for anyone learning the language. But what if I told you there's a much easier way to think about them? That's right, the absolute key to unlocking a massive part of Portuguese, both spoken and written, is to really get a handle on just these four superverbs. Seriously, forget about trying to memorize hundreds of verb tables for now. Focusing on these four will give you the most bang for your buck, by far. And don't worry, we've got a super clear roadmap to get you there. First, we'll meet the verbs. Then we'll see how they work in the present and the past. We'll also look at a few other key forms. And then, the best part, we'll see them in action. It's going to be a simple, clear path to really getting this stuff down. All right, let's kick things off and meet our cast of characters. You should really think of these four verbs as your essential toolkit, the absolute foundation for building almost any sentence you can think of in Portuguese. Let's break down each verb's special superpower. Estar, that's for temporary things, like how you're feeling right now or where you are. Ser is for the permanent stuff. It defines what something is, its core identity. IRR is all about movement and talking about the future. And ter, well, it's for showing you have something, and it's also a crucial helper verb for other tenses. Okay, let's zoom in on the present tense, because this is where we see one of the biggest differences in Portuguese, the split between stating a cold, hard fact and expressing a feeling, a doubt, or a wish. And this slide just lays it out perfectly. On the left, in the indicative mood, you have Eu estou aqui. It's a fact. I am here. Simple. But on the right, you get the subjunctive mood. Espero que ele esteja bem. I hope he is well. It's not a fact, it's a feeling, a desire. See that little shift in meaning? That's the key. So here's what that looks like for the I form of our four verbs. You can really see the pattern here. Notice how the word changes when we go from a straight-up fact to that more uncertain, hopeful feeling. Estou becomes esteja. Vou becomes vá. Tenho becomes tenha. Getting a feel for this shift is a huge step forward. All right, let's tackle the past. In Portuguese, it's not just about what happened, it's about how it happened. And there are two main past tenses that give us completely different ways of looking back in time. Think of it like this. The preterite on the left is like taking a snapshot. I went to the market yesterday. Boom, it happened at a specific point, it's over and done. The imperfect on the right is more like a video recording of the past. I used to go to the market every day. It was a habit, a routine, something that was ongoing. And here are those imperfect forms for I. Estava, era, ia, tinha. These are your go-to words for telling stories, for describing how things used to be, what you were doing, or what your routine was back in the day. Okay, so we've seen the imperfect, but hold on. You might be wondering, what about that other past tense, the preterite, for IR to go and SER to be? Well, this is where things get really interesting. You're about to learn a language hack that's going to save you so much time. That's right, you are not reading that wrong. The past tense forms for to go and to be are completely, 100% identical. This is one of those amazing little moments where a potentially tricky grammar point actually turns into a super simple shortcut. Just look at this. It's wild. Foi can mean I went or I was. Foi can mean he went or he was. You're not seeing double. They are exactly the same word. So the big question is, how on earth do you know which one is which? It's actually super simple. The context of the sentence always makes the meaning perfectly clear. So now that we've got a pretty solid grip on the present and past tenses, let's just quickly run through a few other essential forms you're definitely going to see and need to use. The future and conditional tenses are thankfully pretty straightforward. The future tense tells us what will happen, like irei, I will go, and the conditional tells us what would happen, like iria, I would go. And as you can see right here, the patterns and endings are really quite regular and easy to learn. Every verb also has these three basic building blocks. You've got the infinitive, which is just the basic idea of the verb, like to be. Then there's the gerund, which is the action in progress, being. And finally, the past participle, which is the result or the completed state, been. So for estar, you get estando and estado. Okay, enough with the grammar tables, right? Because grammar is totally useless unless you can actually use it. So let's switch gears and look at some pro tips for how these verbs team up and work together in real everyday conversations. So here, our superverb ser is being used as a helper. It forms what we call the passive voice. The book didn't do anything. Something was done to it. So, foi from the verb ser plus the past participle lido literally means was read. Now, let's contrast that with estar. Él está cansado. He is tired. This isn't who he is forever. It's a temporary state. It's how he is right now, not what he is. That is the classic ser versus estar distinction right there. Now, this is probably one of the most common ways you'll hear people talk about the future in Portuguese. It's so simple. You just take the verb ir, in this case, vai, for he goes, and you tack on another verb in its original form. Vai estudar literally means goes to study, but we all use it to mean is going to study. It's incredibly handy. And finally, let's look at our fourth superverb, ter. It's the absolute essential helper verb for building what we call compound tenses. So tenho, which means I have, combines with estudado, studied, to create the phrase I have studied. You'll see the structure all the time. So, if you remember nothing else, remember this. Use ser for what something is and estar for how it is right now. Use ir plus another verb as your go-to shortcut for future plans. Tener is your key for building those have-done tenses. And please never forget that awesome hack, the past tense of ir and ser is exactly the same. So there you have it. You've seen how they work, you've learned the patterns, and most importantly, you have the shortcuts. You literally have the cheat codes to unlock a huge part of the Portuguese language. So really, the only question left is, are you ready to get out there and start putting them to the test?